Hello, all. It's great that you have all joined back. And if anyone has any kind of questions, I would be happy to answer them for you. Okay, so Kajal is asking me changing passwords frequently. Is it beneficial from the privacy perspective? Yes, Kajal, absolutely. Changing passwords frequently is definitely beneficial from the privacy perspective. And if you see most of the websites or the online platforms these days themselves prompt us to change the password after some time. So, yes, this will definitely help us out in the future. Anyone else would want to ask me a question? Okay, so Nikita Thapar is asking me, is it safe to keep your personal identity cards in Google Drive? See, Nikita, let me put it this way. All the applications that we are using, maybe Facebook, Gmail, Google Pay, Truecaller, WhatsApp, all these applications are not based in India. All these applications are foreign applications for us, and all the data that is being stored is somewhere accessed by these companies, and because their revenue model is based on earning money on the basis of ads, and in order to place ads they need to access or they need to have this kind of information from you, and once they have this kind of information they might analyze it and they might help and it might this information might be helpful for them to show you the kind of ads that you're looking out for or that you're interested in. So answering your question, is it safe to keep your personal identity cards in your Google Drive? The answer would be a no, because you are not only putting your own data at risk, but you are also putting someone else's database or someone else's information at risk as well. So I would consider that it would not be safe to keep someone else's personal identity cards or even your own personal identity card in Google Drive. Anyone else would want to ask a question? How will you find the cyber criminals without? How will you find the cyber criminals without cyber criminals? How can we put case on them? See, what is the difference between a normal fraud and a cyber fraud? If in a normal fraud, in a cyber fraud, you can say the only difference between a normal fraud and a cyber fraud is that the crime happens using a digital platform. And in digital platform, even if you don't know the criminals, it is always beneficial, or it is always you can say in kind of cyber frauds you can consider that there is a concept of digital footprints. So in a normal crime you might be able to wash off or wash away the footprints of a crime. But in a cyber crime or in a digital fraud, you cannot go ahead and wipe off the footprints, because they are permanently stored, and that log can be taken out, and information about the fraudster or the path through which he committed this fraud could be easily traced, and this remains permanently with them. So hence, by tracing the the digital footprints of any crime, we can go ahead and trace the cyber fraudster or a cyber criminal. Now let me give you a live example that happened. This is a very interesting case that that I would like to put it up in front of you. So this case happened in the state of Goa, and what happened is one particular woman, she went ahead and made a complaint. This case is of course 3 to 4 years back, And what happened is that this particular woman made a complaint in the police station saying that her younger sister is missing, and she suspects that her husband and in-laws are a part of this. So 3-4 years back, the domestic violence laws were very strict, wherein even a single complaint could make the husband and his parents land in jail. And hence the police arrested this particular person, and this particular person applied for a bail, and he also got the bail. But one of the conditions was that he had to visit a particular police station at a particular time on a particular day of every week. And the police officer who was investigating this matter was actually a student of mine, because I had taken a webinar in the police academy few years back, wherein he was one of the students, or he was a part of that particular seminar. So what happened is, this police officer called me one day and he said that this matter has happened, and this particular person is is diligently coming on that particular date and time, and he's signing on wherever it is required. And somewhere looking at his body language, or communicating or talking with him, I feel that somewhere he has not committed the crime, and I feel that this particular person is not guilty, and I need your help in investigating this matter. I said that, first of all, you have put me in a very difficult position, because I would not be the right person to assist you in the investigation part. But since you say that this particular person seems to be innocent, let me help you out with some certain kind of cyber forensics that can be done, and we could go ahead and trace the location of this particular lady who has gone missing. So I asked her my favorite questions, that is she using a phone number, does she have an email address, is she using a Facebook ID or account. I told this police officer to ask all these questions to the lady who had registered a complaint with that police officer. So this police officer went back and asked all these questions, and after a week he came back to me with the answers. So he told me that this lady was using a mobile number, but right now the mobile number is coming as switched off, and hence we are not able to locate this particular person. Secondly, she also said that she was using WhatsApp, but now she is no longer active on WhatsApp. Thirdly, she said that she is not, my younger sister is not using any sort kind of Facebook ID. Luckily, she said that she is using an email address. So what I did is, I told this particular police officer to contact the service provider of the email address, and I told him to find out the IP address. Now IP address is nothing but the in simple terms, your details from where you log in and log out. So in simple terms, the place where you log in or log out from will be given a specific ID, and that will be known as your IP address. So we contacted the email service provider, and we found out the details from where she logged in and logged out from. Now to our luck, we found out that this particular email address was just accessed 5 days back. Immediately I told the police officer to send the email to the service provider to tell them the details of the IP address, and using the IP address we went ahead and found out the location. Now a police team was sent, and this lady who was allegedly said to be missing, this lady was found. She was very hale and hearty, and she was staying in a city by the name of Mysore. So a police team was sent over there, and this lady was nabbed, and the lady was got back. She was taken back to Goa, and that is when this particular lady, you can say, she confessed that she and her elder sister had conspired, because they wanted to secure a divorce from her husband, and just to falsely implicate him into a domestic violence matter, so that he will be pressurized and he will be forced to give her a divorce. They had gone ahead and put this up, or they had made this false complaint. I hope the kind of point that I'm trying to make here is understood. we were able to nab the fraudster using her or finding her digital footprints. And that is why it actually becomes more easier to nab a cyber fraudster than a normal criminal, because it is very easy to trace the digital footprints. One more point that I would also want to make here is that in people in the world always talk, or people in India talk about recession, not having jobs. But I would like to tell you, friends, that in my profession there is no such word as recession, because students who are doing courses on cyber security, or law students who have knowledge on cyber security, or cyber frauds or its legal framework, they have always come up to me and they have told me that, sir, because of this the course that we do on cyber security and its legal framework, their CV is highlighted, because their peers come up with courses like other courses, and when they go for interviews and when they tell the respective people in their respective jobs, not only in the legal ones but even when they go out for other corporate jobs, they tell when they showcase in their interview that they have knowledge about how to protect data, how to trace digital footprints, what are the basic ways of doing cyber forensics. When they tell all these things, their CV becomes highlighted, and that is the point of time wherein their CV is also given some preference, and the motive of getting a job becomes more easier. Because in India right now there is a current need of 10 lakh cyber security professionals, and let me tell you that in the police sector there are not more than 5,000 police personnel who are trained on cyber security, and in the corporate sector there is no such concept of data protection. One more exercise that I would like to give you: we are doing all sorts of online shoppings, we are purchasing everything online, but have you tried to find out if these companies are following the information technology rules that have been formulated by the government? Because as per the rules, it is mandatory that you display the privacy policy and the name of the grievance officer. If you are, for example, if you are an e-commerce site, you can do this as an exercise today. As per the information technology rules, if you are selling anything online, that company has to mandatory display the name of the grievance officer and the privacy policy at a very conspicuous place on the website. But if you see, on most of the e-commerce portal, if you visit the good ones and the bad ones, and the any kind of e-commerce portal, try to visit all the good e-commerce portals or the famous branded e-commerce portals, and you will come to know that the name of the grievance officer is not there at a very visible place, and the privacy policy is at the very bottom side or at the very corners of the website in a very small font. So my point the point that I'm trying to make here is that there are various rules and regulations that have been made, but the implementation part becomes very difficult, and that is something that has not been taken very seriously. And hence, as the public is the custodian of its own data, your awareness and sensitization will definitely play a very important role. So friends, you can let me know if you have any other questions that I may answer. Okay, I can see one question that says, can police track the accused by tracking mobile number? See, what happens is that mobile number, if you give the police officers the list of mobile number, the numbers from which you have received the call, or the numbers on which you have made the call, or even if the SIM card is active, or if the phone is switched on with the SIM card in your phone, then the phone has a unique identification number, as we all know, which is called the IMEI number. Identification number, which is called as the IMEI number. So this IMEI number is linked, and that is how you can track the user of the phone using the IMEI number. So the IMEI number will give you the location. I hope I have answered your question, Umesh. Can defamation on an online forum be a cyber crime? Yes, definitely. See, defamation is definitely a topic that we need to go ahead and discuss, because passing any sort of derogatory comments that will, cause any sort of a harm to the repute of the person will definitely be punishable by law. So yes, cyber defamation on an online forum can be a cyber fraud or a cyber crime. Okay, Nikita is asking me how to report a cyber crime that takes place from a software not located in India. See, even if the software using which the crime is committed is not located in India, but you should understand the fact that you are located in India. So what you have to do is you have to go ahead and report the crime to the local cyber cell or the local police station, where you have to go and complain, because they have the authority to get in touch with the international authorities and investigate the crime. Okay, where does India majority lack in its cyber law? What is the major reformation that is? So first of all, friends, as I said, this act is 20 years old. There was no internet banking. There was no use of technology. There were no Google wallets that were being used from the past 10-15 years. All the transactions were happening manually, and that time the act was enacted. So the act is not competent to actually address the modern day crime. As someone rightly said, if someone is using a foreign software or a software which is located not in India, how do you go ahead and it becomes very difficult for the police to actually go ahead and crack or nab the fraudster. So hence a major reformation that needs to take place, not only in terms of the Indian laws, but from the side of the global law, that any kind of cyber fraud should be triable in terms of the jurisdiction of the victim and not the accused. So that is a major reformation. And right now most of the information is shared online. Your birthdays, the names of your family members, important events in your life, all this information is basically available on all your social media channels. So strict rules in terms of making the offences bailable, in increasing the quantum of fines that can be imposed, in terms of increasing the quantum of imprisonment, all such kind of things that need to be done, that will help to create a strong force that will prevent all such cyber frauds and cyber crimes from happening. Because today, if you are committing a cyber crime, and if most of the crimes in the Information Technology Act are bailable, then it becomes a very easy escape route for the fraudster to escape from such crimes. And there is no quantum on the crime. 10 लाख भी आप साइफन ऑफ करो तभी भी सज़ा वही है, और 10 करोड़ साइफन ऑफ करो तभी भी सज़ा वही है. So there should be brackets of crime that could be made, that could help in compartmentalizing the quantum of fine that is granted. So Umesh Vaishya is asking me, if fraudsters are calling via different mobile numbers, how can they be traced? So even if you are using a VoIP ID, you can always contact the police department, or the investigating agency can always contact the VoIP service provider to understand that who has created this account and who has paid for this account. So for example, and even this is applicable in terms of having websites also. Even if you come across a fake website and if you make a complaint, then the police can actually reach up to the agency who is selling that particular domain to understand that who has purchased the domain, from which account was the money being paid. So using all these digital footprints, you can go ahead and trace the fraudsters. Harsh Dhawan asking me that what if criminals use different IP address, are they still traceable? Yes, they are still traceable. It takes a longer time for us to trace them, but yes, this is definitely possible. I tried using Oddbot app for changing IP for getting into dark web, and I did it successfully. Good, you have committed you can say that you have committed a cyber fraud under the section of section 65 for tampering the computer source. So you should be more careful about that. Where do we start as law graduate in order to get into the field of cyber law? See, first of all, at this point of time, I can just put it up in this way that Virtual Lawyer is going to come up with very interesting courses on cyber fraud and its legal framework. So maybe you can join such courses and try to get a basic understanding about cyber frauds. And till the time you complete your education, you will be once you have such kind of certifications, certifications will definitely help you help your CV to stand out in terms of your contemporaries. Okay. Okay, anyone else would want to ask me a question? Okay, Mohammed is asking me a question. Recently, my father's brother's company website is shown as hacked by Google. How can we proceed further? Okay, sorry. No, it's okay. See, Google has its fraud investigation team, and you have to, send an application to the fraud investigation team on asking them the basis on which this site was hacked and how did you come to know about this information. And once you receive an intimation from them, you please make a complaint with the local cyber cell or with the local police jurisdiction under the section 65 of the Information Technology Act for tampering of computer source documents. Okay, can you please repeat the domain point? So for example, if you have created a fake website to defraud people, so you must have purchased your domain from certain domain service provider like GoDaddy. So if a fraud happens using a fake website address, then what the police generally does is they contact GoDaddy, they ask them that who has purchased this domain and using which account the money was given to purchase this domain, and using this kind of digital footprints, they go ahead and they trace the fraudster. Okay, anyone else would like to go ahead and ask any question? Okay, Khayali Pulao, nice name. Okay, what kind of privacy we can create to safeguard ourselves while using various mobile applications? See, use an antivirus, use a firewall, keep your privacy settings as private, don't give out a lot of personal information, keep your personal accounts separate. All these things you have to do while you are using mobile application. Before downloading any mobile application, read the terms and conditions, because all the applications that we are currently using like Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, whenever you download all these applications just ask you to tick on a box that says you have accepted the terms and conditions. So without reading the terms and conditions, you should not be ticking on that box. Okay, hi, how far would you agree that data is the new oil? If you remember, this statement was made by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi ji, who made this statement saying that data is the new oil. Now let us try to understand that why the Prime Minister has given the importance of oil to data. So for that, first of all, let us understand what is the importance of oil. So oil has the power to fluctuate the global economies, and that is the reason the oil trade is become so important. Any fluctuation in the prices of the oil will affect the share markets, will affect the transport industry, and will create a huge impact on the other sectors as well, because it is an integral part of transport and communication. That is the reason oil has the power to fluctuate economies. And now in today's age and stage, if you see, most of the things that we do are done online. We purchase clothes online, we purchase our toiletries online, we purchase our books online, we purchase our stationery online, we purchase these days even things like computers and laptops online, mobile phone online. So most of the purchases today are done online. and when you are doing all these purchases online, you are sharing your sensitive information. And if you share your sensitive information, and if the information is being stolen on a major basis, then all this information or all this digital platforms that are used to store all your virtual information, they come under the scanner. And that is the reason, if you see, most of these companies like Google, Facebook, they do ads after analyzing your activities that you carry out on their platform. And this analysis, the main motive behind this analysis is to help you show ads. And the people and these companies are paid millions and millions of money for displaying a company's ad. And that is the reason now data has become the new oil, because most of the things these days are done online, and hence all the sensitive information is out in the public, and hence the importance of oil is given to this data. I hope I have answered this question. So a small question: what is your opinion on net banking or using UPI? Is it safe to go with UPI applications? See, you can go ahead and use this UPI applications, but as I said, that the bank accounts that you have attached with to this UPIs, don't keep more than 3 to 5,000 rupees in your account. So God forbid, if the fraud happens in the future, lot of money is not at stake. Okay, so how do you feel about the anti-competitive effects or misuse of data the world at economy level? See, if data is definitely used for the right purposes in order to create, in order for the main motive of analyzing his data is not to commit a fraud on your account, but to maybe show you things that would be of your interest. But as I said, that there are always two sides. There is always a yin and there is always a yang. So looking at the negatives, there are 10-20% of people out of the entire 100% population who is using digital platform. There are 20-30% people who are using the digital platforms, or who are using online platforms for committing negative activities. So that is the reason we have to be a little careful before using all this online platforms. So I hope that I have answered all these questions, and I would like to thank you for being such a wonderful audience. And one humble request that I would like to make to all the ladies who are a part of this webinar is that if they are facing even the slightest or the smallest amount of cyber harassment, or if someone is harassing you, or if someone is blackmailing you, then you have to promise me today that you will definitely go ahead and report this matter to the local police station or to the local cyber cell. Because I have seen this thing that अरे इतना कुछ नहीं हुआ है, हम इतने से छोटे मैटर के लिए क्या कंप्लेंट करना, हम कौन जाएगा पुलिस स्टेशन. Girls and ladies, let me tell you that such attitude will definitely land you in trouble in the future, because your attitude of neglecting such small issues will make the cyber fraudster more powerful and aggressive, and you might be in for a bigger scam or a bigger type of harassment. So please promise me, all the girls and ladies in this webinar, that if they face any kind of cyber harassment or bullying, they will go ahead and report it to the local police station or to the local cyber cell, because your awareness in this matter will play a very important role. Because please understand that your integrity and your modesty is also a part of your physical safety and security. So please ensure that you do not take any kind of negligence in this matter. And even if you are facing any sort of harassment, blackmailing, extortion, or even your friend is facing any such kind of extortion or bullying, make sure that you help them out in registering the complaint. By saying this, I would like to thank you once again, and Virtual Lawyer, for giving me this opportunity to come onto your platform and share this very interesting topic of cyber frauds and cyber securities. And I hope that in the times to come you remain cyber safe and cyber secure. So I hope that you enjoyed the webinar and I was able to take you through the various facets of cyber frauds and cyber crime. And I hope to see you next time on other interesting topics that we could have a discussion on. So thank you once again, and everyone have a beautiful evening ahead. Thank you and take care.